Hello, today is May 8th. It's now 7 and 6 p.m. And once again, here we are another week trying to record a mediocre at best podcast that fails miserably at everything it tries to achieve. Okay. And wow, what a week, right? A lot of things happened, but one thing didn't happen, and that was I didn't prepare anything for today. Just like every other week, I never prepare anything. But however, I did think about a few things that I would like to talk about, or I would at least like to try to talk about. Right? I didn't prepare, but I thought, which is always a challenge because thinking is easy, but putting your thoughts into words, that's the hard part, and that's the part that I fail most of the time, you know. And I mean, the other parts that I fail, the other 50% of the time is actually thinking things that might be funny or interesting. That's the things that I fail, you know. I fail at thinking cool and funny things, and I fail at communicating them. Okay, but hey, lots of things happened this week, right? So it should be pretty interesting, right? Lots of trended topics to talk about, which will make this episode very obsolete in like 2 weeks when nobody gives a fuck anymore for whatever the fuck I'm about to say. Like, that's the problem about trying to comment on things that are trending, trying to create content about things that only matter now, right now, because like a month from now on, people will have moved on from these topics, and nobody's going to fucking care, and nobody's going to want to listen to whatever the fuck anyone has to say about these topics that don't matter anymore, right? But I have no creativity, I'm no comedian, so it's not like I have the skills or the ability to create a text that is beyond time, I guess I could say. I don't have that skill. So I'm going to comment on the things that are trending, that are happening, right? Because I have no creativity. I have no nothing. Okay, I don't have anything on me. But and what else to talk about today if not by the new Pope? The new Pope was chosen, and how is it said? Habemos Papa, Papito, el Papito de la Igrejita Catolicita is now chosen, right? They chose a fucking Pope, and it's a fucking American. And I gotta say, man, Americans, they can't, like, nothing is okay with the world. Nothing is okay in the world if they are not the fucking center of attention. Nothing is good enough if America is not the trending. If there's no American man, no American white male, and I'm not woke, by the way, but if there's no American white male in a position of power in this world, like, Americans are never happy. Actually, that didn't make any sense because Americans never fucking cared about the Pope or Catholicism. But yeah, like, why does it have to be a fucking American, man? Like, why? Like, when I saw it was a fucking American, I genuinely I felt bad. I actually, like, I'm not Catholic. I'm not Catholic. I'm not religious. But just like everybody else, I was interested in this Pope election, you know? I was a little bit invested. I didn't know who the fuck was running for. I didn't know the possible names. But I knew I didn't want a fucking American to be the new Pope. And it's not anything personally against Americans. For example, I didn't want an Asian to be a Pope either. And I don't have anything against Asians. It's just that it does not fit at all. Like, no fucking Asians, man. No Asians. Okay? And no Latinos either. The Pope, it should be either an European, preferentially an Italian, or a black man, an Africanese man. That's what I wanted. An European man, preferably Italian, or a guy from Africa, a black man from Africa. Why? I don't know. I just I feel like those are the only guys that are truly Catholic. Catholic. Italians and Africans, they are the only real Catholics out there, okay? And Americans, man, Catholicism is not even it's not even the most popular religion in the US. Why did they pick a fucking Catholic? Everybody that has a religion in the US is either a Protestant or a fucking satanist, a fucking devil worshipper, Those are the only two religions that exist in the US, and that fact explains a lot about the situation of the USA, right? Because the only guys that actually care about religions out there are fucking crazy Protestants or crazy fucking satanists. Okay? So why the fuck did they pick a fucking American to be the head of the Catholic Church? I don't fucking know. But that did made me what the fuck am I saying? That did make me a little bit angry. A little bit frustrated, And also, it's such a fucking... I know it's the fucking first American president, American... when I say American, I'm referring to someone from the US, right? Because, that's how they call it. People that come from the US. Anyways, I know it's the first American Pope in the history. But at the same time, it feels cliche, even though it has never happened before. Like, the fact that an American was chosen, it's like it does not fit at all, but it's something that it does not come, like, it's so likely that an American is going to be chosen for a position of power that it's so obvious that you expect something else to happen. But when it does happen, you're like, I really hoped that wouldn't happen, but it did. You get what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say here? I don't know. I'm not sure if I get what I'm trying to say here. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's it's cliche. Even though it has never happened before, it's still cliche, right? It's still not surprising, exactly, I don't know how to explain it, but it does not fit at all. It does not fit an American as the Pope. Do you know how fucking sinful America is? You know how fucking deep in moral corruption the United States of America is? And I'm not trying to throw shade at America. That's what makes the US of A great. That's why everybody wants to go to the US. That's why it's the most powerful country in the world. It's because it's a pool of depravity and corruption and greediness, you know? It's a decadent, it's a decaying society. And that's what it makes it great. Because it has been decaying since the fucking 70s or whatever the fuck. You know, it has been born in decay and profanity and greediness and selfishness, you know, and that's what makes America great. That's what it makes it a great fucking country that everybody wants to go to. You know, that's why people in America have so much prosperity, you know, but like choosing a guy from that place, it does not fit, you know. I didn't even know that there were Catholics in a fucking America. How, like, how do they just not burn when they go out in the sunlight? You know, Catholics in the US, you know, if anybody, first off, how is there any Catholic church in the US? I'd guess if they tried to build a Catholic church in the US, it would just instantly burn. You know? I don't know. However, I have to say, man, the choice of the name for the new pope is fucking fantastic. Lion. Leo. Like, holy shit, that's a fucking badass name. That's a fucking badass name, you know? I mean, it would fit better if it was like a ripped guy, you know, with a huge, you know, wavy hair, you know, kind of like a Super Saiyan hair, you know, like all spiky and like a huge lion mane, you know, and the guy's hipped, you know, that, you know, it would fit better, you know, the guy, you know, none of those guys deserve the title of Leon. I don't know the title in the US, but like here it's called Lion, basically, like the translation is lion. But like none of those guys even fit that fucking title, you know, lion. But it's a fucking cool title, okay? That I do respect. Another thing that got me thinking, yo, because it's a phenomenon, right, that happens every time a pope dies. The whole world stops to see what's going to happen next, right? Every single time that does happen. And I gotta say, man, and you know, what got me thinking was, why does it happen? Because Catholicism is losing popularity quite fast, right? Catholicism has lost all of its influence, Catholicism has no influence in the world right now, like, you know, as an institution, like the Pope has absolutely no fucking power. Nobody fucking listens to what the Pope says, and I'm going to get into that later. But despite that, despite Catholicism have losing a lot of influence and power, and you know, like nobody is Catholic anymore. But despite all that, whenever a pope dies, even atheists, how the fuck do you pronounce those words? Every time a pope dies, even atheists stop to see all of the rituals, you know, because when a pope dies, he does not, you know, a pope just does not only dies, you know, they don't just die, because there's all of the ritual, you know, around the fucking, the burying, I guess. How the fuck do you say that? You know, the fucking, when he dies, he don't just die. There's the whole fucking the ceremonies, and after the guy's buried 6 feet underground, there's the fucking rituals to the election of a new one, and it all seems so mystical and so mysterious, and it's so cool that even people that don't give a shit about religion stop to watch it, right? And I was wondering, why does it happen? Why does even people that don't give a fuck about religion are interested by the choice of a new pope? Like every time this event happens, there's a lot of commotion, and I personally know a lot of people that don't give a fuck about religion, that are not Catholics, but they want to see what's going on, right? And it always happens. It's always like that. So I was wondering, why? Why? And I came to the conclusion that it's cool to have an old and wise and cool old dude. I said old twice, but does not matter. It's nice to have an old dude remembering us of what is good and what is bad and what is evil and what is good. Because that's what the Pope is, and that's what the Pope does. He reminds us of what is good and what is bad, even though it's pretty obvious. Everybody knows, kind of everybody does know what is good and what is bad. But the Pope, it's good to have this role of an old wise guy telling us all the obvious, because the Pope is always saying something, the Pope is always making an announcement, he's always pronouncing something, and every time he pronounces something, it's always the obvious. It's like a war broke out between India and Pakistan. What do you think the Pope is going to say? I know what the fucking Pope is going to say. He's going to say that he condemns it and that we should love each other and we should strive to achieve peace. Okay? The genocide on Gaza. What do you think the Pope will say about that? I know what the Pope is going to say about that. He's going to say that he condemns it, and and we should love each other, and we should strive to achieve peace. Poverty on Africa. What do you think the Pope is going to say about it? Like, everybody knows what the Pope is going to say about any given topic. Child abuse on the church. What do you think the Pope is going to say about that? Do you think he's going to say, yeah, that's cool, keep doing it, I like the guys who do it, I'm friends with one of them? No, he's not going to say it. He's going to say that he condemns it. So the Pope always is like, the Pope's always saying some shit, either to condemn it or to praise it. They are always saying something, and it never matters because nobody gives a shit about the Pope, what the Pope says. But it's nice that there's a guy that is saying that, because for some reason, even though the Pope has no fucking influence whatsoever in any fucking matter in the world, like, nobody gives a damn, like, like, I don't think I don't think the Pope has any fucking influence on whatever global event happens, like, nobody fucking cares. But even though that's the case, whatever the Pope says always becomes a headline, news outlets, they always, like, whenever the Pope makes an announcement, they always say, like, they always make an article about his pronouncement, even though we always know what the fuck he's going to say. So it's cool that there's a guy that people listen to, even though what he says is obvious, you know? It's cool that there's this figure. It's cool that there's this figure of an old and wise guy that looks pretty cool, you know, has a cool name, has cool clothes. You know, it's cool that there's this position of power that is not really power, but it's cool that this guy exists, and it's cool that he's constantly reminding us of what is good and what is bad, even though we don't listen to him, and even though when he condemns something, you know, even if it's in a nation, you know, even if he condemns a nation that is mostly not made of, what the fuck, you know, Catholic, you know, even though, like, even if he condemns a Catholic nation, like, even that nation is not going to give a damn about whatever the Pope has to say, you know, but it's cool that he exists, you know, and it's kind of comfortable, you know, whenever I see a headline about something that the Pope said, even though I already know what he's going to have said about any given topic, even though that's the case, you know, it always gives me some kind of comfort, you know, because, you know, at least I know there's one guy out there that is still good, right? You know, there's this one guy out there, you know, that is a nice person, okay? At least one of them, and I hope he truly is good, you know. But another thing that does not make sense is the lack of Pope power. And I'm not speaking, even though I already said that the Pope does not have any power or influence. I'm not talking about this type of influence, you know. I'm not talking about, you know, worldly influence, you know. I'm not talking about global influence. I'm not talking about politics influence or power. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual superhero powers. It bothers me and it puzzles me that the Pope does not have any powers whatsoever. You know, they can't fly, they can't heal the sick, they can't stop time, you know. Like, there's like, the guy that should have a superpower does not have any. There's kids out there, 4 years old, that can make crazy fucking calculus. They can, like, there's kids out there that if you ask them what is a millionth to the power of a Google, like, they know how to answer that shit. Those kids have more powers than the fucking Pope, man. And again, I'm not talking about, you know, politics. I'm talking about real world powers, you know, because to me, a kid that can fucking calculate 3,420 times 5,022, like, that kid has more power. Like, that kid has a real fucking superhero power, right? But the popes don't have any of that, you know. I don't think there's any pope in the history of popidity. You know, I don't think there's any pope in the history of the popes that could even fucking bend a spoon, you know? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I would like to see him trying it. Okay, yeah, you are holy, you are cool, you are a saint, but can you bend this spoon with the power of your mind? No? Then why are you even the Pope? You know? Why? You know, Catholicism does not make any sense to me, man. You know, I was born in a Protestant, in a Protestant family, you know. So Protestants, they don't have many rights, I guess you could say that. You know, they don't have many, rituals. They don't have, they Protestants follow what's in the Bible, and I'm not saying that that one is better than the other. That's not what I'm trying to say here. It's just that I don't understand Catholicism. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying that it's a bad religion. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that I don't understand Catholicism because I have a mind that has been conditioned to take what's in the Bible as the only and true rule you gotta follow. Now, I'm not religious anymore, I'm not an atheist, but I'm not, I don't know what I believe in, basically. But, I mean, if the Bible is really the ultimate book, the ultimate guideline to follow, why why Catholics have so many fucking rituals? And why is there a pope? You know? Why are there saints? And I'm not criticizing it. I just don't understand how these things even came to be. You know? I don't know, man. Because, I imagine when, the first Christians were hiding in the fucking, I don't know, hiding somewhere to praise the Lord and do their masses, and pray and tell the history of Jesus. I don't think they had in mind that one day what they represented, because even though they were few, they represented already the church. I don't think they ever imagined that what they were saying there would be said many years later in a church made of gold. I don't know, like that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't understand why there's gold in a fucking Catholic church. That's the point that I tried so hard to get at, that could have been just summarized in those words. Like, I don't understand why there's gold in Catholic churches. And I mean, again, I'm not criticizing Catholics, because I know there's fucking pastors, Protestant pastors, wearing like fucking diamond watches. I know there's bullshit in both ways, both religions. But that, you get what I'm trying to say here? Like, how did it become this thing? How did it get to this point where there's a guy that is nominated and elected to be the head of the church? But like, when the guy, when the best guy was around, there was none of this shit. So why do we need this now? I thought he already told us what we have to do. And a lot of the things that he said are pretty cool, man. I like Jesus. Jesus is pretty fucking cool. I may not be religious, but Jesus, man, Jesus is a great guy. I actually love Jesus. So, and because I like him so much, I don't understand this whole fucking thing that happens. But anyways, it happens. There's no problem with that. I don't know why they chant like this in a language that nobody understands or talks anymore. Why did it become this? Jesus didn't even speak Latin. Why are they sing like this. Amen. You know, I would listen to a podcast made by the Pope. You know, the Holy Vatican Catholic podcast. I would listen to that podcast, you know, because I like listening to the Pope. Just like I said before, you know, when the Pope speaks, you know, it's comforting. You know, it's predictable, yes, it's obvious, yes, but it's comforting. I like the guy. I like the Pope. Okay, even though he's American now, you know, I like the, you know, whoever gets the title of the Pope, I like them. Okay, they are cool. They are cool in my book. Yes, they may not be able to bend a spoon. They may not be able to make hard calculus, you know, calculate hard things in a split second. Yeah, they may not be able to fly. They may not be able to do anything in the world. But I like the guy. You know, I like the guy. I like whoever gets elected, you know. So I don't have any expectations, and I have no fucking hope for the world. I don't think anything is going to change. You know, I think the Pope is going to still say shit. We are all going to look at him and nod and say, "Yep, that's how things should be." But they are not going to be the way they should be, and that's how it's going to go. You know. One thing that might happen now this time, since the Pope is a fucking American, you know, maybe this time around the Pope may be the Antichrist. Because, you know, I don't know, the fucking horsemen of the apocalypse are always Americans, you know. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whenever there's an important figure in the apocalypse, you know, whenever there's an influential American person in a position of power, it always defaults to that person being important to the apocalypse. What I just said, did it make any sense? Was I able to fucking properly communicate that? I'll try again. Every time there's an influential American man in a position of power, people always theorize that that man is either Jesus, that man is a horseman of the apocalypse, or that man is the Antichrist, right? And we already know that Trump, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Zuckerberg are the horsemen of power, the horsemen of the apocalypse. Now we have an American Pope, and every time there's a new Pope, people always wonder if this time around that Pope is going to be the Antichrist, right? The catch is, this time it's an American. And since American people seem to be the protagonists of the world's history, maybe this time around the Pope really is the Antichrist. You know, I'm not expecting it, but maybe, who knows? Maybe this time around it will really happen, you know? You know, Jewish people thought they were the protagonists of the world, but no, it's the fucking Americans. It's America, baby. We are the most important people in the world. Billions and millions. Yes, we are the most influential people. Okay, the new Pope, it's the best Pope because he's American, okay? I'd say he's like the greatest Pope of all time, okay? Yeah, and he's going to make Catholicism great again, okay? And millions and millions and millions of Americans are going to become Catholics thanks to this Pope, and he's going to restore the faith of the American people. I completely lost the fucking... There, I think I got it right a couple times there. I did. That was not so bad, right? But yeah, the Americans, they are always... they are always the protagonists of the fucking story. They always find the cure. They always get the gold medal. They always invent the fucking computer, and they always invent the fucking everything. They invented the airplanes even though they didn't. They always... Americans are great. They are different, They might be the superior race. So yeah, man, I mean, it stands to reason that the important figures of the apocalypse are going to be born in American, and are going to be true born American blooded men. Okay? Yeah, that's what I had to say about the Pope. Okay, if you are listening to this 2 weeks from now, I'm sorry because this podcast is irrelevant for you now. Okay, but I mean, what do you want me to do, man? What do you want me to do? Anyways, that's enough about that. Okay, let's go to a more serious topic. And that is the war between Pakistan and India. I'm joking, that topic's not serious. Those guys have been in war for I don't know how many fucking years now. Those guys have some old grudges. The thing about India being in a war, though, it gets me, First off, I never, whenever I see India in news, in world news and in the global scenario, I'm reminded that that country actually exists, right? Because India is such a fucking weird place, and I'm not trying to be offensive here, okay? I'm not trying to be offensive, please, but it's a country that is so old, has such a rich culture and history, and it has so many people, yet it's still irrelevant most of the time. I mean, it's not irrelevance, it's irrelevant to the common man, which is me. Like China is very relevant in my life because everything I buy comes from China. Whenever I want to buy something cheap, I go to Chinese sites to buy it. And I'm always searching for Chinese knockoffs of good products to buy. So China is important in my life. China is very important in my life. But India, India is like, what? That country exists? Every time you see India being mentioned, you are reminded that that country exists. Right? And that's what it's weird about it, because it's a beautiful country sometimes. And it's a big country with a big population, with a rich history and culture, but you never remember that it exists. And again, I'm not trying to be offensive here. I'm not trying to trash India, because I come from a very irrelevant place in the world that nobody gives a fuck about, and everybody, they probably have the same fucking reaction when they hear about my country. They probably think, oh yeah, that country actually exists, because nobody gives a fuck about us, but India has that going for them, right? So, and then you hear that that country actually has a century war going on, and you're like, holy shit, man, really? Like, that country is in war with who? Why would they be in war with someone? Does someone wants a piece of their land? But who the fuck wants to live in India? Nobody moves to India willingly, People get deported to India. They don't fucking go there. I mean, they go there if they have to, Well, who the fuck wants a piece of India? Why are they in war? But the thing that really catches me is that the place that spawned Buddhism and Siddhartha Gautama, that's the place that is in war with another place. Like, really, like the country where Buddhism was born, the country where Buddha was born, the country where that guy achieved nirvana, that place is in war. That fucking place is like the place where the majority of the population is Buddhist. That place, you are telling me, is in war with another country. And India is not in war only with Pakistan, but India also does not have a good relationship with China, for example. So when you start looking into it, you see that actually India, they are defending themselves and they have all of the right to do that. I'm not criticizing them. But India has bad blood with a lot of countries. Not a lot, the aggressive ones, But like India, like why I'm saying China when I'm trying to say India. But India does not hold back, They they get aggressive if you mess with them. And it's like, to me it's kind of surprising, because I guess if you wanted, I think that I thought that if another country tried to invade India because they wanted a piece of it, I thought the president would be like, yeah man, take it, This materialistic shit does not matter to us, man. We are enlightened. We are the birthplace of Buddha himself. Like, we don't give a shit. You can pick whatever land you want, man. We don't live here. We live in we live in nirvana, man. We don't need this piece of land, man. We are bigger than that. Okay? We don't need this piece of land because we are the land. And we are one with the land. That's what I imagined Indians would say to possible aggressors, but it's not like India has nukes. Can you believe that shit? India has nukes. India, nukes. How does that make any fucking sense? It does not. It does not. India has fucking nukes. Like, that does not make any fucking sense to me. I think it's, at the end of the day, it always comes down to British influence, right? It always comes down to British influence because British is fucked up, and and the UK fucks up a lot of places. UK is a fucking, like, British people are the spawn of evil in the world. That's what, like, I'm not going to go further into it. I'm not going to explain my statement. I'm just going to say it, British people fuck up the whole fucking world. Okay? That's what it is. And, India was a colony for the British, until very recently, actually, I think. I'm not sure, actually. But it was under British influence until very recently. So, of course they have nukes. That explains it, That explains why they have nukes. Because they had to deal with the fucking British. And the British, man. British. Nobody wants to deal with those guys. Nobody likes them. Everybody wants to be away from them. Okay? Those guys, like, when you look at the history of British influence on countries, you are wondering how the fuck how are those guys still alive for all of what they did? When you look at what Britain, when you look into what the United Kingdom did, you are like, really, those guys that sit on high horses and try and try to tell you what is right and what is wrong. Those guys, like, British people should just fucking shut the fuck up. They shouldn't have any opinion on any matter in the fucking world, either bad or good. Like, we don't care that you have a fucking, it's like the UK is so fucked up that they shouldn't even criticize Nazism. They shouldn't criticize anything. They should shut the fuck up and let the world heal from all of the bad that they did to it. Okay? Sorry, I said it. Somebody had to say it, because British people are always wanting to give their opinions on any fucking matter, and like, dude, shut the fuck up. You are evil. And I'm not going to explain myself here. They are. Trust me, they are. Also, it's funny how the places where like the two realest and coolest dudes were born are so aggressive, Like, Jesus was born in Israel, Buddha was born in India, and let me tell you, man, like, those countries, they don't listen to the teachings of their influential figures. They don't give a fuck what anybody says. Okay? It like the nations where the chillest dudes were born, they have no fucking chill. They have no fucking stops. They really should listen more to the people that came from there. That didn't make any sense. But you get what I mean? Like, like, chill, man. Didn't you hear what that cool guy that came from there said to you? Know what I mean? Like, take the history of Rome, for example. And I know Rome was fucked up. But at least some of the emperors were interested in philosophy, for example. Some of the emperors, some of the Rome emperors, they at least cared about the philosophies that were produced inside the country. But Israel and India, they don't fucking care whatever the fuck that guy told them. Jesus was like, man, chill. What? Like, chill. Buddha was like, man, chill. And fast forward, thousands of years later, we are like, bro, shut up. We don't care. We are going to kill everybody, okay? And we are going to... I don't fucking know. I don't know what Israel and India do. I don't know what they do. I think it's... I'm not criticizing them. I know that they are just defending themselves, But, what are they defending against? Like, just let the guys take some piece of land, man. Nobody needs that much fucking land. Right? Don't they say that you could fit the entire human population in the city of New York? Isn't there some bullshit like that? I don't fucking know if that's real or not. I don't believe that shit. But like, isn't there some people that say that you could fit a lot of people in a single city? Like, you could fit the entire human population in a single city. If everybody's squeezed together. Yes, I get it. But so there's like, like, yeah, you can grab that piece of land, man. I don't care, we have plenty of land. Let's share, let's repart, yes. Let's devise Let's divide you, you know? But no, no, it's not like that. Why? Because they didn't listen to the guy that was born there. There was a cool guy there that tried to tell you cool things and you didn't listen. Okay? Now you have nukes. Now you are killing children. And for what? For what? I ask you. I don't know why. I don't know why, but it's a tragedy. Yes, it is. Anyways, I think that's it for today. Okay, that's the only things that I thought about this week, you know. I mean, actually, the Pope thing I just thought today because that's, he was elected today. But the India stuff, I have been, trying to think about something, about the Indian situation ever since the news came out. So the things were escalating between India and Pakistan, And I hope it was good. I hope it was good enough, at least. I mean, if it was mediocre, I'm glad. Okay? Probably amateurish at best. But anyways, this is not, this is not neither time or place to reflect about the quality of this podcast that nobody listens to. I'm glad I came here today to do this. I'm glad I'm here and recording this. I'm going to go now because I have nothing else to say, and I need to know when to take my leave. Okay, so I'm just going to go. I'm just going to say bye and finish recording because I never know how to finish this. So bye.